All right, so today I found myself wanting to update one of my Vagrant boxes for Ubuntu 24.04. I want to get the latest patch release of this, or at least find out if there is one, and then build a new box for it. And this is for an M1 Max, so it's an ARM build. First thing I want to do is just show you what the net result is. If I come over to the command line here, the goal is to spin up a new machine. And so you can see inside of this testing directory, I've got a Vagrant file. I can dump that out. And so if I run a Vagrant up here, that will use the old build, the previous build. I can do that to spin up a VM. I can come over to Parallels then and just wait here. And eventually I'll get a VM up and running. All right, so it's booting now. And should be able to close this here. Open up the control center. There you go. There's the new VM. Open that up. And you can see I've got a login here to Ubuntu, so I'm ready to go. And so for now, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to run a vagrant destroy, get rid of that VM. That'll be gone in a moment. And there you go. All right, and so now to set up the changes, I need to open up this repository that I'm working with, which, by the way, here is the Git repo that I'm using. It's just vagrant boxes. All right, so over in VS Code here, under the Ubuntu ARM directory, got a bunch of configuration. For example, I've got scripts here that'll actually configure the machine. None of these are that important right now. What I want to do is I want to take a look at some of the parameters that I pass to Packer so that I can create an Ubuntu 24.04 Vagrant box. So up in this 24.04 directory, I've got some variables that are set. And then one of the variables here points at an ISO to download. So if I want to get a newer version of this, I saved myself a link here I can open up to take a look and see if I can find a newer build. All right, now that takes me out to 24.10, which is the most recent daily build. I don't want that, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to come back over to my repo here. I've got a 23.10 build, and if I come under the variables for this, got a link in here I can manipulate. I can click this link right here. That'll give me the 23.10 release, but I don't want that. Instead, I want this to be 24.04, and I believe .1 is the most recent patch release. All right, so there's .1. And now if I scroll down here, down at the end of the file, I should see a series of ISOs, live server ARM. So I'm going to go with this one right here, copy that link here, and then I'll come over to the variables for 24.04. All right, and I'll paste that in and then replace the old link. And I might also leave myself a little note for where I found that at. This is the last spot I found it, so I'll probably update here. And I'm going to get rid of these notes. These aren't applicable anymore. All right, and then the next thing I need to do, I need to find where the checksum is at. So I think this one's going to help to look at the 23.10 again. Should have something like this. Let's come over and paste this in here. Should be able to modify this and put in 24.04.1. And I'll get rid of the old one here. All right, so now just to verify that, I should see that checksum out here. There it is. Should be able to grab a link to this. And then if I come over here, there you go. You can see that link matches. So I should be good to go here to build a new version of my box. Though before I do that, I do need to update a few more things here. I'm going to bump the box version here. I'm going to put this to .6. And it's not the daily live build anymore, so I'll just get rid of that. And I'll say 24.04.1, ARM64. Sounds good. And I'll just drop off the date for right now. That's not critical. All right, so these parameters here, they actually end up over here under the box when I create a new release of a box. There you go. You can see 115. So I'll have a 116 here in a moment. And you can see that is the old little description. So that'll get updated as well. All right. So back over here, just going to poke around and see if there's anything else I needed to update. I don't think there is. I guess I could update the description here as well. All right. That looks good. We got the variables here. And I shouldn't need to change anything else. So I'm just going to poke around here and see if there's anything that stands out. I can come down to a build script I have then. All right. Nothing looks like it's unique here. All right, so this build script, when I run this, this is actually going to kick off the entire process to build the box at the end of the day. And it's going to call into a Packer configuration that's common among all of the Ubuntu flavors that I'm building. You can see there's 23.10, there's 24.04. I even have 22.04, I believe. Anyways, I share a common configuration, and then I have those separate variable files with the specifics for a given release. And so that's what we set up here. So that's going to be pulled in. We'll get the new ISO. So at this point in time, it looks like I'm good to go to just save all of my changes. And then over at the command line here, come up a directory. All right, so I can run that build 2404. It will tell me what I'm missing. I don't have my credentials set up yet, so I'll have to do that. That should fail here. All right, it's downloading the ISO, which is perfectly fine. It'll cache that ISO then, so if I want to build again or if I have a problem during the build, it won't have to download the entire ISO again. All right, that's just about done. And it should fail here. I don't think I've got my credentials set up by default. All right, so I just did some checking and I do have my credentials set up by default. So I'll let this run to completion. This will take about 10 to 15 minutes. And at this point in time, it's starting to run some of the scripts here. It's installing the Parallels guest tools right now. That came from this script that I provided here for parallels.tools.sh. So these scripts over here inside the repo, each of these will be run in the correct order to basically configure the environment how I want. Really just installing packages here with apt, a little bit of cleanup to keep the box a little smaller, setting up some basic networking, for example, setting the default hostname to Ubuntu, and then of course the parallel guest tools. And then I set up sudo. All right, so that's about it for the script. And this window just popped up here, which means I think it's getting rid of the VM that it was working with. So we should be close to done here. All right, indeed, we are now building the Vagrant box. You can see compressing the Vagrant file. So while that's happening, let's come out to the website again. So this is the current box. It's V115. There's no V116 yet. If I come back over here, all right, we moved on to the post process here at the end, which is to upload to Vagrant Cloud. All right, creating the new version, uploading it. Let's go see if the version shows up here. Refresh. There you go. There's 116. And in this case, you can see it's hosted by Vagrant Cloud and it doesn't have a size here. Whereas the previous version, you can see there's a size. And that's because the box is not yet uploaded. If I drill into this, I might be able to see that. Oh, it's got it now, 1.74 gigabytes. And so that's it. Now somebody like you could come along, run a Vagrant up using this slug up here, westdemo/Ubuntu 2404 ARM. And you can bring up a VM then on a Mac that works with Parallels. Or you could even come out and just download the Vagrant box if you're curious. So that means if I come over here, yep, looks like we're done. So if for any reason you need to work with VMs, of course, I always recommend to work with something like Docker if you just need some sort of simple, lightweight Linux environment. But if for some reason you need a VM, like maybe you want to run some VMs inside of your VM, or maybe you want to run Docker inside of your VM, or maybe you want to hack on the Linux kernel itself, well, then that's a great case for a VM. And don't be afraid to use this tooling to set up your own reproducible environments. You don't have to share them if you don't want to, but you can do that as well. It's a simple way to get some scripts going to bring up a brand new VM environment. So now every time I use this to start up a new VM, I've got a brand new fresh environment based on the most recent version of Ubuntu 2404.